Hey, everybody. Welcome. If you're watching this live, thank you very much. I know this was impromptu and I just kind of threw this together. But if you're watching this on the replay, thank you very much, too. We are now having an international audience. I have to make sure I say that because I got chastised for not saying that. So, welcome, everybody. I am going to be on a show tonight with Publicly Buzzed. So, I'm not going to spend an inordinate amount of time with you breaking this down because I'm going to talk about it with Publicly Buzzed tonight. But I just felt it was necessary to try to get some of this information out there because it is like everything else. Anything that has to do with this true crime stuff, it just grows legs. And I just want to go through a couple things. If you're watching this live now on YouTube, great. If you're watching this on Kick, thank you. I don't have my other computer set up. If you notice, I'm in a different environment here. The only problem is you're getting the shine off my head, so you probably need a pair of sunglasses. So yeah, I'm going to be on Publicly Buzzed tonight at 7:30, and we're going to break this down and more about the LISK case, Rex Heuremann, Gilgo, and everything like that. But I want to straighten out a couple of things before this thing absolutely grows legs and just like gets out of control. So the attorney for Rex Heuremann, Michael J. Brown, said after the press conference or after the court case today that Tim Sini, who was the former police commissioner and also the former Suffolk County district attorney, wanted to arrest somebody else for the case that lived near Massapequa. But here's my take on that. Who cares? All right. Who really cares? When you're doing an investigation that involves at least 10 sets of human remains, and I'm not including Shannon Gilbert in this right now because unfortunately her case is still listed as undetermined. So every time I mention the cases, I am including Shannon, but I can't really talk about it in the respect of a criminal investigation because it's not listed as a criminal investigation. I know some people get very upset, and I understand that, but it's beyond my control. I have nothing to do with that. For the time being, let's just stick with the 10 victims that we have. If you're going to undertake a massive investigation like this over the course of 13 years, you will develop several different suspects in your case. It's as simple as that. When you have a situation where you're dealing with a homicide investigation, you have to deal with all of the detectives working together, everybody building a theory. Think about it this way. Yeah, if you're a football fan, right, or if you know about football, when the guys get into the huddle and they talk about what play they're going to use, well, detective work is very similar. After you gather all your initial information and evidence and what have you, you talk to the preliminary people if you have eyewitnesses or what have you, and then you build your theories. It's just a working theory. Most of the time, it leads to somebody you know, right? Because most people are victimized by someone you know. So it's just sometimes that simple. But over the course of an investigation, you develop a number of suspects. Because let's just say a spouse was murdered. You're automatically looking at the other significant other in the case. It's as simple as that. Does it always pan out? No. So for the attorney to say, oh, there was other suspects, I hope so, because that shows you that the police were actually doing their job. When you're investigating a homicide or any case, the rule is simple. You will collect enough information and evidence to exclude all others. That's it. So every person that appears in that case file should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, just like your storybooks, just like you were taught how to do this when you were doing your classes and you were writing your little stories. So what happens is you develop Sam Smith as a suspect. You then do all your investigation on Sam Smith. You do your computer checks. You do your prison checks. You do all the different things on him. And the big question that comes for a lot of suspects is opportunity. Did this person have the opportunity to commit the crime? And that's where you sort of eliminate many of your suspects. For instance, we had a case one time that we liked this guy big time. We thought it was a revenge motive homicide. We said we knew that we had dealt with these guys in the past, and this guy ended up into a horrible death. And we figured, you know what? It's got to be him. So we start doing our computer checks. They start looking at it. The detectives are doing it. And they come back to me and they say, hey, Sarge, guess what? What? Not him. Okay. How did we come to that conclusion? He's in prison right now. Okay. So it still doesn't necessarily absolve him from everything, right? Because people have been able to give orders from prison to kill people. But at that moment, that case was kind of put on a different avenue or a different street, however you want to talk about that. So here's the important fact of that, and we don't know the answer to this question. Whomever appears in that case, whether it's 1, 10, or 15 suspects, the police have to be able to end that person as a possible suspect, meaning prove that he didn't either have what I refer to as MOM, means, opportunity, and motive, right? So MOM is the three things that you need to have a viable suspect. So you just remember MOM, right? Everyone loves MOM. MOM, means, opportunity, and motive. And like I said before, opportunity is the big one. If you can show that this person didn't have that opportunity, he or she has to be discounted as a suspect. Simple as that. So for the defense attorney to come out and say with this, he's doing exactly what he wants to do. He wants to start putting out that reasonable doubt in people's minds. Remember, they haven't started picking juries yet. They haven't done any of this stuff yet. And you're going to find it extremely difficult to find 12 people and a couple of alternatives that don't know about this case. But he's hoping that something he says sticks with somebody. I mean, that's what they do. Bob Motta will tell us too. If we can get a chance, if Bob is on here, then that'd be great. But the issue that comes down to is this is a nothing burger. Just like what Joe Waldman had put out on SDS podcast. He had put out the tweet, and I said, this is a nothing burger. It happens all the time. So I wouldn't put all of my eggs in my basket and saying, oh boy, the case is in trouble. The case is not in trouble. It's far from it. But here's the other thing that I worry about. And I worry about because I like to follow the rules and regulations when you're doing something, specifically a homicide investigation. But when you're dealing with this massive homicide investigation, New York State has what's called the Rosario Rule. Now, the Rosario Rule is that law enforcement must keep every piece of paper that they use in the case. Everything. If you wrote something down on a Dunkin' Donuts napkin, right? Because cops don't go to Dunkin' Donuts. If you write it down on a Dunkin' Donuts napkin, you have to save that napkin with the case file. We refer to that as pocket litter, right? Things that aren't in a notebook, things that aren't on a police report, things that are back in the day, matchbooks, right? You've all seen the what do they call it, noir, right? Where somebody writes something important on a matchbook and they find it in the case file. In New York State, it's mandatory. Not every state, believe it or not, has that rule. So what they would do is, they would get something, write it on a napkin, and then take it and a report and write it an official report and then throw up a napkin. Not in New York State, you can't do that. You have to take that napkin, write the report, and keep the napkin. It has to be identical. You have to keep all of this stuff together. And if anything, I think this is what the attorney is trying to look for, because he started talking about all of the discovery materials, that he's not getting this and he's not getting that. And that's an important aspect because discovery laws have changed. The prosecution has to comply with this on a certain time frame to do this. And you want to be able to just understand that he is looking for anything. If you notice, he's not attacking the evidence anymore. He's not attacking the mitochondrial DNA anymore. He's not doing any of that. He's going after procedural stuff now, which to me, in my opinion, is telling about where this case is headed. So if you're worried about this case going flat, I wouldn't worry about that. If you're worried about the case getting thrown out, I certainly wouldn't worry about that. But what I would be concerned about, not worried, but concerned, is that law enforcement dotting their I's and crossing their T's, because that is the most important part of this investigation. Believe it or not, it's not about anything else other than documentation. The old saying that you have in law enforcement, especially in the detective bureau, if it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. And it's a hackneyed experience. It's a hackneyed approach to things, right? You hear it all the time, but believe it or not, it pops up in case after case. And it worries me because I've seen a lot of different things go wrong in investigations, and something this massive has been going on for 13 years. We know about previous administrations, and it's something, that culture that can't be fixed overnight. So it is extremely important that it was done properly. So having several suspects in the case, I think it's actually good because it shows that the police made an effort to try to find somebody else other than Rex. And that's the way you have to look at it. And I don't know if this was such a great idea to bring it up, because that's exactly what I believe District Attorney Ray Tierney will say to combat that once it comes up in trial. And saying that, yes, we had other people. And yes, we did this. And yes, we did that. However, none of them panned out for all of these reasons. And here's the documentation to show it. However, your client has this, this, and this. And I think that's what we're going to see from the district attorney in regards to that matter. So I hope that kind of closes the gap a little bit. I know I probably spoke a little fast because I speak fast. So if anybody is trying to, slow me down, just throw it in the notes here. Mods and everyone, yeah, hey, Janet, how are you, buddy? Sorry I haven't been able to do with Kick and everything else, but I am a one-man show, and that one-man show is trying his best to make sure we get this information out there. So I don't want you guys to think the mods or the people on Kick and everybody else that I have forgotten you. I haven't. As a matter of fact, I'm starting to get worried and keep me up at night that I'm not paying enough attention to you. So we'll plan something like that in the future. Hey, Desi. Hey, Jay. Hey, Raul. How are you? So, yes, let's talk about the next thing. Asa Ellerup in the courtroom. Who cares? Another one. Who cares? Yesterday, I think I had tweeted this out that her lawyer publicly stated that she was going to be there. Like, it wasn't a big secret. I'm looking at this article after article, like, oh my God, Asa's in the. Really? So you had actually hope, even though she filed for divorce, there's still, some sort of relationship there. I mean, they spent a lot of time. They have children in common, or a child in common. So I don't find that unusual. Now, if you saw last night's show with Josh, he kind of threw another wrinkle into that whole thing about the reason why she needs to be there is because of this Peacock show, and she needs to be up on the case and go through all this stuff. Is that true? I don't know. Starting to look that way because they had lots of different cameras and everything else following her around. So that's actually an interesting wrinkle on that whole thing. So I wouldn't read anything into that either. The thing that you need to concentrate on is the mitochondrial DNA that you have for Rex. Now, there's a difference between mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA when it comes specifically to DNA itself, but in hair follicles. So I was going to put this in the community quiz tonight, but you know what? I might put it anyway, because this way I can get people to watch the video too, right? So that's a little mean thing I do, right? No, but the community post, I've been putting up quizzes every day, trying to get people involved and stuff, and they're actually done pretty well. We're up like 400 people a day, going on these quizzes. But here's the thing about mitochondrial DNA and hair follicles. The shaft itself, if you find the shaft only has mitochondrial DNA, which is only derived from mom. So remember, mitochondrial DNA, mom. So anytime you hear this from this moment on, when you hear about a case and they talk about mitochondrial DNA, it's only derived from your mother, which makes it more difficult to actually identify a person down the line. It takes a lot more work because you're only dealing with half the tree. I almost said half the Christmas tree, half the family tree. So just remember that. Nuclear DNA, in order to have nuclear DNA in a hair follicle, you actually have to have the bulb. So you don't have to worry about me dropping nuclear DNA so far, off my head, right? But even things like your eyebrow, your hair on your chin or on your chest, all of those hair follicles, if you can get the bulb, it's ideal because it's nuclear DNA derived from both parents, right? That's the key. So when people are asking and they're fumbling with the mitochondrial DNA, you actually guys know exactly now what you're talking about. Remember, M for mom, mitochondria. Nuclear DNA is both parents. And you as an investigator hope that you get nuclear DNA because now you have a chance with both parts of the family tree be able to identify your suspect. So that's the difference in that. So they mentioned the mitochondrial DNA today with the hair follicles. All right. So don't think that there's still, this is not a good thing that they only have mitochondrial DNA. That's what the defense wants you to think, that, they only have half the family tree. That's all you really need in order to identify somebody. It's just that it takes so much longer and so many more steps in order to actually do it. And now, with New York State finally allowing familial DNA searches, those familial DNA searches don't have to do with the outside uh, DNA trees, like 23andMe and all that. That has nothing to do with that. This is something else I want to straighten out with everybody. New York State, about 2 weeks ago, brought back familial DNA searches, which we're starting to see what I believe, my opinion, of course, I'm going to preface that, is because of the LISK case. That's why they brought this back, because they're realizing, meaning the people up in Albany are realizing that this is a great tool in order to help solve cold cases, specifically unidentified human remains, missing persons, and everything else that goes along with it. So this is an important step in helping identify so many more people and either suspects or unidentified victims. But for the LISK case, it's really important because we have both. We have unidentified victims in this case, maybe several of them. I know we have, of course, Peaches and the baby doe, and you have Asian male, but there are many other cases that could be part of this whole thing. Raul has a catch LISK. He's got his website there. Just go to his site. I'm not even going to tell you anything else where to go. If you want information about these cases, go to Catch LISK's link tree, and you can get all his information on there, and he'll help you out. He's a great guy. So it's important that this keeps on moving forward. Now, we have the law back on law enforcement side, but what I was saying before, so people are like, oh, 23andMe and all this. No, this had to do with the actual searching in New York State's database. People are like, what? New York State has a database? Every state has its own DNA database. Safe. It starts with the S, right? So the CODIS is they have their own state database. New York City, because it's so big, has its own database. So when you're talking about New York suspects in a lot of these cases, DNA, you always search at home first. So you have New York State has New York City's database, and you have New York State's database. And if the person's not in there, then they go to the federal database. Now, up until 2 weeks ago, law enforcement couldn't even use New York State's databases to do familial checks. How crazy is that? Right? How crazy is that? Convicted suspects, they couldn't search for companion cases. Only in New York. I swear to God. Sometimes, you just kind of throw your hands up in the air and say, like, what on earth is going on? So this is a big step in it. Now, this is going to be the thing that possibly ties Maureen Brainerd Barnes's case into it, because the district attorney himself had said that the DNA in that case was degraded and that they were using some of the outside labs in order to try to help identify the suspect hair that was recovered. So do I think it's going to get added on to Rex? In my opinion, of course, I think it is. I think the Gilgo 4, there's no doubt that we can all agree, no matter what side of the divide you stand on in this case, we can all agree that the person responsible for all 4 victims of the Gilgo 4 is the same person, which would be right now, allegedly, Rex Heuremann. So I don't, unless the DNA is so degraded that they can't get anything else off it, that would be the only terrible thing for the Brainerd Barnes family, right? If they just can't pull this out of the hat, so to speak. But that doesn't mean you give up, because as we've seen forensic technology changing with rapid pace, if they can't do it tomorrow, they might be able to do it next week, next month, or next year, or 5 years from now. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised. And I also don't think Rex is going to get out of prison ever, because even if he, from some miracle, gets out of this case, he's got at least 41 felony charges waiting for him in Nassau County if this doesn't go, with the 41 illegally possessed firearms. 41, right? So 41 felonies, at least a year or more for each of those. And if you look at New York State law, it says a mandatory 3 years in prison for every illegally possessed guns. So you do the math on 41 felonies with that. Okay, so I wouldn't be worried about that. His lawyer has a huge task in front of him. If he gets done in Suffolk, he's gonna have to do something for Nassau too. And it's just something that, oh well, that's just what Rex is going to do. Right? So that's that. So just remember, by him, the lawyer, telling us There is other suspects. I say good, bring it on. Mitochondrial DNA only derived from mom. I mean, an Asa Eller up in the court. Who cares? I mean, who cares? Who really cares if she's in court or not? It's not going to change anything. My concern is when they pick the 12 jurors also, right, and the alternates. That's going to be an interesting, you know, I doubt you're going to find 12 people who never heard of this case. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, are they going to ask for a change of venue? Sure, why not? I mean, the defense attorney has got to do all of these things. He's got to give his client the best possible defense that he can. And if that's the case, to try to make up as much, doubt in people's minds, that's what their job is. So Julie just checked in from Australia. How you doing, Julie? Yeah. So I mean, Julie wasn't the one that got upset at me that I said that we weren't. That I only said coast to coast the other day, but I have. Yeah, absolutely, Raul. Can you be objective? Please be my guest. Lay it on me, brother. So if you have any other questions, will you throw it in there? Raul's going to ask me a question. Think of it as this a good opportunity to do a little Q&A. Just throw it in the. I can't see anything on Kick, so if you can just put it on here, I'll try to answer that question as soon as I can. Wow, 162 people in here already. That's amazing. So Tiffany Knox, remember at the beginning of the case, hearing about personal injury, car accident insurance scams he was running? Anyone else remembers that? Yeah, there's been a whole lot of things, including some issues with his architectural firm. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised, Tiffany, if anything else was included in any of that. So Raul, I'm still waiting on you there, brother. If you want to give me that question. And anybody else want to throw in that question before I lose my next train of thought, which, as getting to my age, is like, it's pretty easy. If you notice this classroom, pretty nice, right? So I can do something about the lights in here. So all right, here's another question. The male DNA, the one on the garbage bags her body was in, do you think they will test it? Mystery Girl with Missy, every piece of evidence that they have, whether it's forensic, ballistic, whatever, trace evidence, whatever it is, they have to test it. Because just from what the lawyer was saying today about all these different cases and different people, absolutely. So if you collect the evidence, you have to test it. As simple as that. Because why? The defense attorney could say, "Around, well, listen, you found this blood spatter evidence, or you found this semen stain, or you found, who does it belong to? I don't know. Well, maybe that is the real killer, not my client." See how this goes? So any evidence that has been recovered, and they said today there was 13,000 photographs dumped onto the defense today. So it's talk about a huge undertaking to try to get this discovery piece in there is going to be pretty interesting. So hang on a second. I think Raul just okay. Impossible to know the case, but if a person can be objective, they might get on the jury. Oh, okay, that's what I thought you had. Yeah, it is. Well, listen, it's not impossible to get on the jury, and Raul's 100% correct. It's just going to be difficult to weed out anybody who has any strong personal opinions about Rex, or they just don't want to be in jury duty, and that's all they know they need to say. It's as simple as that. So if you're on the jury and you don't want to go to jury duty, and they say, "Do you know about this case?" "Oh yeah, I watched the Killing Season. I watched the A&E. I watched this. I watched that. I know everything about the case. I'm an expert. I'm going to be really good at this jury because I know everything about the case." They be like, "See you later." I'm wondering. Okay, so true crime time. I'm wondering what is Rex's alibi? Mike Shannon Gilbert found murdered. Well, here's the thing about that true crime. There are a lot of people that were there that night, and the police spoke to them way back when. And according to Rodney Harrison, they were re-interviewed, and they're going to be re-interviewed again. And it is going to be nearly impossible for them to deny if he was there. So cell phone data, if they had it back then, could also place him in and around that area too. So I think that we need to avoid that kind of speculation per se, but if the question you're asking me, could he be there? Yeah, he could be, could not be, but through those interviews, they will be able to determine if that is the case. So Well, G Hunt, yeah, Macedonio has a pretty interesting history, but does that mean that anything about this case, whatever? We try not to hold people's past sins against them, just like we don't want to victim blame. Well, if somebody screwed up and he's got his law license back and everything like that, and he's back, doing the court things, you know, we got to give him a little bit of break. So yeah, Jane Walker, the Virginia case, we've seen this happen before, where people see Rex's face and then they say, I think he's responsible for my mother's death or my sister or what have you. And that's what's happening again now with this route. I think it's Route 29. I hope that was the route. And like everything else, there's a drawing. If you haven't seen the drawing, I would go online and see it. The drawing looks pretty good. And listen, law enforcement's going to do what law enforcement does. So they're going to see if there's a chance for any forensic evidence at the scene, whether it's body fluids, hair follicles, or what have you. We know we have his buccal swab, the cheek swab that they sent to Las Vegas. So we know that can be sent down to Virginia also. Gritty, yes, thank you. Yeah, the community quiz questions. I'm actually getting a lot of great feedback on those. If you don't know what we're talking about, if you go to the YouTube page, where all those things says, videos live, and it says community. If you hit on the community tab, most of the community tabs are quizzes or, things like you can do yes, no, interactive stuff. And yes, there are some things in there about, who's going to be on the show next and the like, but it's been predominantly forensic related, death investigation related, criminal investigation. And I just throw these things out there. My students like them too, but I'm finding that you guys are enjoying them too. And until you get sick of them or you don't like them, then I am going to keep on putting them out there. Yeah, red phase, heart shape. Yeah, it's a little hot in this room. So let's see. So we got Raul's take on there. Yeah, 13,000 photos today were dumped on him. Wait till you get the search warrant stuff. Good grief. Those pages are going to be questionable photos. I think the photos are actually from the crime scenes. And it's just something. Insert the DiCaprio gift. So thanks, Mystery Girl. So here, does it ever seem to you that the murderers interact with each other and try to teach other things? For murderers, I haven't really come across that. We found that a lot out with street thieves, meaning like, robbers and pickpockets and those kind of things. They tend to teach each other the trade and that kind of stuff. But murderers, in New York City, unfortunately, we dealt with most murders that had to deal with either gang-related, drug-related, or sex work-related. And that's generally the three biggest areas of New York City homicides. And I think you'd find that in every major city. Those are the three top types of cases. And they are very difficult to solve for obvious reasons, because nobody wants to come forward to help anybody in gang or drug cases because they're worried about themselves or their families. And then, yeah, 30,000. I wouldn't be a bit surprised they dropped 13,000 today. See, that's what the dark web Facebook comment section's for. Yeah, we want to avoid that. So it's just kind of thing. So I just wanted to jump on. Like I said, I want to do something quick, 30 minutes or almost up to. If you have any other questions, you want to throw them in there. If not, I'm going to talk for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to call it a day, because we want to save some stuff for Publicly Buzz show tonight. Don't miss it tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be back on, but I will be on Publicly Buzz channel. If you can just if one of the mods are in there and they could put Publicly Buzz information in the chat so people can line up, and I'm going to try to send people from this show over to that show, and I'm not making any promises that it's going to work. So thank Crime Time Crochet. Thank you for coming. All right. So just for the side note, this Saturday, I have Anjanette Levy from Law and Crime Network. Next Tuesday, everyone's favorite Cheryl Mack McCollum will be on the show. The 25th of November, I'll be doing an update show like this. It's going to be a one-man show. It's Thanksgiving weekend. I didn't want to bother anybody to try to get them on the show, because they'll probably be spending some time or running around with their wives going shopping, or husbands. So I'll be doing a solo show if you guys want to join me on the 25th. On December 2nd, I have Gerald Posner, who wrote the book Case Closed. He's an expert in the JFK assassination, and he wrote that book Case Closed, which is a phenomenal book. I even have a chart of this is how crazy things get. I'm booked all the way up and through the 28th. Excuse me, I forgot. I got Detective Wendell Stratford. Wendell Stratford was a cold case detective that Kelly Wark, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate that. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. Wendell Stratford was a cold case detective. He made over 300 300 homicide arrests in cold case. He's the real deal. He's actually a consultant for Blue Bloods, so he's going to talk about that. And he was just on an Oxygen show that we're going to try to see if we can watch, because that's the one I was the supervisor for, and it's had some funny back stories on that, even though it's a serious issue. So 12/2, yes, I have Gerald Posner and the JFK assassination. December 5th, ready? Barbara Butcher, author of What the Dead Know, medical legal investigator for 30-something years with the New York City Office of the Medical Examiner. That should be a lot of fun. I know Barbara for a long time. And then on the 9th, I have another special guest. We're going to keep that a little bit of a secret, give you guys tempted up, and try to 300 cold cases. Wendell is the real deal, right? So Wendell is, and he's a really, I used him for my cold case book as a source. So, yep. So this is great. Thanks, Teresa. Ironically, there's a Jimmy Burke character on Blue Bloods about higher up that books it. Yeah, well, there's all kinds of crazy stuff about James Burke. So, yep, secret guest, Gritty. It's going to be interesting. I'm trying to keep this most of the stuff victim centric. So like Wendell's going to talk about some of his cases. I'm going to announce those cases ahead of time so you guys can do some research and you can maybe ask some questions. But Fuzzy Puff, thank you very much for the super sticker. I appreciate that too. So just on the 25th, it's going to be more of like what we're doing right here. I'm going to be breaking down some cases, breaking down some court stuff that's going on, and I get a chance to actually interact with you guys. There will be a members only show in the near future also. So if you consider being a member, that's great too. But if not, you can always reach out to me any other way. Ask me questions. I'm available to everybody. But I just want to appreciate all the support and friendship out there. Jay and Bob Motter and Publicly Buzzed and Dizzy and everybody. Listen, I know Viv. I know I'm going to forget people. Miss Wildside, Janet, Mandy. All right, you guys are awesome. I just try to remember everything and everybody out there. But I'm trying to teach my wife how to do this. She can help me, but she's told me like basically you're on your own, pal. But we're gonna try to indoctrinate. Thanks, Missy. Yep, Missy on there too. We're gonna try to indoctrinate the wife into this whole thing. Marianne, I didn't forget you. Thank you. I listen. I don't want to try to forget anybody, but I'm trying to make sure that we keep everybody on here. And just I don't have a list in front of me. So yep, Carrie, 28. Thank you. Yep, you are part of that too. Dizzy, I got you. Don't worry about that. And yeah, so you guys doing the mod stuff is great. And yeah, I got a calendar, Bernie. My wife got this for me at the Dollar Tree because I was screwing everything else up. Yep, Charlotte, there's another one I forgot out there. So, and my latest, Kelly Wark, thank you very much. So, yeah, double date with the Jackalones. Oh, yeah, listen, December 8th is going to be the Cold Case Symposium, LISK Symposium out in Long Island in Nassau County. I'm going to be there. Jay's going to be there, and Raul, and I hope Shannon comes too. So that should be an interesting thing, and maybe we can do some live stuff in there. We'll talk to John ahead of time. Maybe we can get an exclusive either before or after interview. Jay, what do you think about that? I think that should be a lot of fun, and we're going to do that. So for those of you that can't make the symposium out on Nassau County, oh, good. So Shannon will be there too. Excellent. So there'll be four of us. Between the four of us, we'll see if we can get some exclusive comments from John and be able to do some behind the scenes stuff, whether it's even photos or videos or what they call it. So we're going to be posting it on everybody's different page, and we're going to share as much information as we can. It should be a lot of fun. Okay, folks. So I kept you there. It's dinner time. I want you guys to enjoy the rest of the night. If you can remember, tonight, 7:30, I'll be back with Publicly Buzzed. We had 175 people in the room. I appreciate you guys doing this at the last second, and everybody who's joined in the community and on the members thing. I really appreciate that too. You guys have a great night, and we will talk to you soon. Okay? Take care, guys. Stay safe.